Isn't it romantic? Music in the night, a dream that can be heard.
During my college years, I visited ROL's and Jan's parents and was instantly fond of them. Margie was a little Irish ball of energy and became one of my best friends. She taught me to cook like she did, so ROL could have the meals he enjoyed. Milt was a giant of a man, and he was a lifeguard with Johnny Weissmuller in San Francisco. He left home when he was 12 because his father beat him. He had a good job for a large company in Cloquet, Minnesota. His family all did exactly as he ordered, but I liked to argue with him about religion, and he loved it. He called me the golden-tongued one, as I could stand up to him always. He was a wonderful father to me. ROL worked for the state of California all the rest of his life. He had a very happy 20 years with our friends and family until his parents passed away, and the loss affected him very seriously. He was transferred to Orange County and a new office, but had some difficulties and new circumstances at work. Years later, he was promoted to the top, so he made it. We had a lovely home in Mesa Verde and many new friends, but he was not happy, and I knew our relationship was ended. I am so grateful for all the happy memories to cherish. I went to stay with my Sherry in Hollywood, and Raleigh was concerned about me and called his best friend Ron Taylor to suggest that he called me because he knew Ron was always very fond of me. And Ron called immediately and offered his help and support. After 3 years, we married. Ron was a director at Mattel Toys, and at that time in charge of having product made in the Far East. So I was able to travel with him. The per diem was so high, we just had to pay my flight and I could join him. Mattel had a reputation to uphold, so we stayed in the finest hotels in Japan, Singapore, Australia, and the Philippines, as he chose the companies to make the product. It was a new world of wonder for me. Ron was one of 12 experts invited to attend an international convention sponsored by the United Nations to China to assist them in designing, producing, packaging, and selling their products. He taught classes in Beijing for a week and south to Guangzhou for a week. We stayed in their most famous hotels, were wined and dined in the finest restaurants, visited their most famous sites, and climbed the Great Wall. Amazing memories. Back home, we took square dance classes and were chosen for Southern California's performance group called the Silver Swingers, and we danced at state and national conventions. There are usually 8 in a square dance class, but there were 24 of us instead. So it was a unique show, and our costumes were custom made. There was another group from Northern California that usually performed when we did. We danced in other local clubs and clubs in Europe for over 25 years. Such fun. At a performance in Los Angeles, I had a visit with Lawrence Welk and was able to tell him how much my mother and her 3 sisters enjoyed him every week. In one of their visits to stay with us, I was able to take them all to his compound to enjoy his show and stay overnight. They were thrilled. Ron and I were together 33 years and loved to travel, so we enjoyed 11 cruises and visited over 60 countries. Greece and Egypt were our favorites. In the 3 years before I married Ron, I had to work, so I became an activity director at a retirement center in Torrance for 10 years. I had a young assistant, so I could travel whenever I wished and loved my 130 residents so much. I cast them in fashion shows and plays, which we did for the families, and performed in public as well. They all came to me one day and told me that they thought they went there to die, but they had never lived that much. The residents became family to me, and I felt so loved and appreciated and cherished the warm memories. They have all passed away, but live forever in my heart. Next after that, I decided to go to work for my favorite Broadway stores. So I took a class they offered to help us decide what department we would like to work in. I was in my 50s then and older than the others. The department head of the newspaper that went out to the 2,000 employees in the main office pulled me out of class after a few weeks. He explained that their young editor of that paper and a Leisure World smaller paper for the retired employees was in a serious car accident. He offered to train me to take it over as well as plan all the activities for the 2,000 employees, such as trips to Disneyland, Knott's Berry Farm, contests, etc. I had always wanted to work for a newspaper, so I jumped at the chance and managed to do it all for over a year. It was more than an 8-hour job, and Ron helped me in the evenings. I had an art department that worked with me and met with the owner and his executives every week. I had to go into Los Angeles to lay out the paper every month. Ron helped me when needed. I loved doing that, and when the young gal returned, they knew they needed both of us in the job. We could finish each other's sentences and love being together. And another year until Broadway started to have financial issues. Then they assigned me to be in charge of the warehouse sales on weekends. But my employees would go off skiing and skip the work, so I decided to resign. My young friend couldn't keep up with it all by herself, so she resigned. Guess what? They had to hire 3 employees to do the job. Shortly after that, they closed all 44 of their stores, and my favorite shop was gone forever. But I am forever grateful for that amazing experience.
Isn't it romantic? Music in the night, a dream that can be heard.